How I Terminated Dogman Habituation. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I was targeted and harassed by a dogman, for lack of a better term, and I felt like my entire life was wrecked and over. But I kept fighting back. I never gave up, and eventually, I lucked onto the perfect solution for my particular dogman situation. So you know up front, this one has a happy ending before I even begin. I need to tell it that way, otherwise I start to get depressed when I remember those bad old days. That was a very hopeless time, and I generally try not to think about it at all. I have to brace myself a bit just to go into this old story again, because my fear of the dogman was and is so intense. I want to apologize to those people who like Dogman, or who have met a kindly one. I am not trying to disagree with you, or say that your experience is not valid. I am not calling you a liar, because for all I know, the creature that you knew and loved might be from an entirely different species than the one that harassed me for so long. I don't have any idea what that creature was, and so I might be wrong to even call him a dogman. But that's sure what he looked like. He was kind of a Bigfoot, but with little dog feet instead. Actually, his feet were big by wolf standards, but definitely not in Sasquatch league. The legs he walked on were far less humanoid than the legs that Bigfoot is supposed to walk on. Both of them look like hairy men at first glance, though. And so in many ways, you could sort of say that I was having trouble with a dog-headed Bigfoot. It's not entirely true, but when someone doesn't understand what you mean by terms like dogman or upright canine, then you can try to explain it that way. Most people know what a Bigfoot is by now. Put a dog head up on top, and that is sort of what I saw, even though it's sort of also not what I saw. I'm getting shivers as I visualize the beast, and I know it's time to start detailing what exactly I'm so traumatized about. I wish I had some liquor in the house, because I could sure use a belt of something strong before going back into these bad old memories. Okay, let's just jump into the deep end right off the bat. The first time I saw the dogman, I had just awakened at 5 a.m. and gotten up to start getting ready for my day. I saw something out of the window that stopped me in my tracks and made me blink a few times to make sure I wasn't still dreaming. I seriously couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the beast standing outside my window. It was like something out of a nightmare, but it was real. The creature had the body of a massive dog, standing up on its hind legs, towering taller than any man I'd ever seen. It was covered in thick, dark fur, and had razor-sharp claws that glinted in the moonlight, as though he were made of stainless steel. I froze, unable to move or even scream. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt like I was going to pass out. The dogman was staring at me, with its glowing amber eyes, its canine body tense and ready to pounce. I knew I had to do something, but I couldn't think straight. For what felt like an eternity, we just stood there, staring at each other. I didn't know what the creature wanted, or even why it was there. All I knew was that I was in danger. As the moments ticked by, the dogman slowly lowered itself back down onto all fours. It cocked its head at me, its eyes still glowing in the darkness. And then, it was gone, vanished into the pre-dawn darkness. I was left standing there, trembling uncontrollably, not knowing if what I had just witnessed was real or a figment of my imagination. But I knew one thing for sure. I had never been more scared in my life. By the next morning, I tried to rationalize what I had seen. Maybe it was a trick of the light, or a bear standing upright. But deep down, I knew that what I saw was something else entirely. It was a dogman, a terrifying and elusive creature that I certainly didn't want to ever encounter again. I became kind of jumpy at that point. I kept thinking I was seeing the Dogman again, but it would be just the wind blowing a tree or a stray dog running past. I was really becoming a nervous wreck. It made me tired all day and wired all night. I couldn't rest and I couldn't think straight. I was a mess. The Dogman seemed to have been trying to get me into this state, and so I expected he was gloating, wherever he was. I saw him in my dreams, mocking me, but in truth, I hadn't seen him in real life again since that one incident. I reminded myself that the chances of seeing a rare wild animal twice in one life are close to zero, and each day, I started to feel a little bit more like myself again. And then, one really beautiful morning, I slept until the sun was already out, and I texted my office that I was going to be an hour late. It had been the first good night of sleep I'd gotten in some time, and I wanted to enjoy the sunny morning, not rush through it. I went out front to bring in the milk bottles, when crash, one of the bottles exploded just as I was about to grab it. Milk went all over me and everywhere else, too. I couldn't understand until crash, a rock slammed into my front door behind me. Looking up and forward, I saw that Dogman. He was standing there, in broad daylight, albeit at the edge of the woodline. He was armed and about to throw another rock at me, so I got my butt back inside while I still could. This would become a feature of the Dogman's treatment of me. He would let me think he was gone. Then he would come back, worse than before. And so, what happened next? You guessed it. The Dogman stopped bothering me for a while. For weeks, I slept soundly, no longer afraid of the nocturnal sounds outside my window. I started to believe that maybe it had found a new target, or maybe it had even passed on, or moved away. But that all changed one fateful night. I was awakened by a sound that I knew too well, the howling of the Dogman. This time, however, it was different. The howls were louder, more guttural, and seemed to come from multiple creatures. I stumbled out of bed and ran to the window, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. A pack of Dogmen, with their glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth, were circling my house. I could hear their footsteps on the porch, the wooden boards creaking under their weight. When I would see one outside the window, I would hear another of them outside and behind me. No matter what direction I turned, there was another Dogman. I wasn't handling it too well, and so I called the police, who arrived after the animals had left. And I mean just after. I think the Dogman stayed until they heard the cops arriving, and then they just moved into the tree line. Or maybe stayed and watched me talk to the cops. I didn't tell the cops I saw werewolves and Dogmen, though. I told them I saw a bunch of prowlers who seemed to have dogs or some kind of animals with them. I mean, that's a weird enough thing to report, so don't ask me to report werewolves as well, you know? Things with the Dogman chilled out after the cops came out to the house, and once again I started to feel like maybe the trouble was finally over. A few weeks after that, I invited a girl over to my place. She and I had been dating lightly for a while, mostly lunch dates near work, and I thought it was time to take it to the next level. Everything was going fine until we settled in the living room. I had just poured us some drinks when I noticed that same feeling again. The sense of being watched. I tried to shake it off, but then my date screamed. At first I thought she had seen a mouse or a spider or something, but then I followed her gaze, and I saw the Dogman, framed in the window. It was there again, staring back at us, with those glowing amber eyes. My date was petrified, and I didn't blame her. I tried to calm her down, assuring her that everything was going to be all right. But then that idiot Dogman started banging on the window, and she went into a full-blown panic. She screamed at me to do something, to call the police, to chase it away. But I was frozen too. All I could do was watch as the creature pounded on the glass. Finally, the Dogman disappeared into the night again, and my date and I were left shaken but unharmed. She couldn't believe what she had just seen and demanded an explanation. I knew that telling her the truth wasn't an option. She'd just think I was crazy. Instead, I tried to play it off as a neighborhood prank, and when that didn't work, I said it was a stray dog. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't the end of it. The mood had been ruined, and as the night wore on, my date became increasingly agitated. She kept checking the windows. I could tell she didn't feel safe at my place anymore, and that she wanted to leave. Again, I couldn't blame her. I didn't feel safe there either. I offered to drive her home, partially because I wanted to get out of there myself. But she called a car service instead. After she left, I stayed up all night, wondering what would happen next. Would the Dogman come back again, or was this really the last I would see of it? I didn't know, but I did know one thing. I had to find a way to protect myself and my home from this terrifying creature. The experience with the Dogman had left me feeling extremely vulnerable. I knew I had to take immediate action to secure my home and myself. Now, with the adrenaline still pumping through my veins, I started thinking of ways to protect myself from this menacing creature. The first thing that came to mind was getting a weapon of some sort, maybe a gun, or even a rifle. But I quickly dismissed that idea. I wasn't comfortable with firearms, and I didn't want to put myself or anyone else at risk. The second most obvious option would be to hire a security guard who would patrol the premises at night. However, when I looked into it, the cost was a bit steep, and it felt like an overreaction, given that this was just one creature. Then I remembered hearing about an old ritual that involved putting up charms and wards to ward off evil spirits or supernatural creatures. I wasn't 100% sure if that Dogman was supernatural or if it would work, but I figured it couldn't hurt to try. I gathered as many protection charms and symbols as I could from a couple of stores I knew, and I placed them around the house in strategic locations. I also placed some over windows and doors. As a last resort, I even contacted a paranormal investigator I knew to come do a reading of the house, both psychically and in terms of electrical wiring. I was desperate for anything that could help me understand what I was dealing with and how to stop it from coming back. In the days and weeks that followed, I did not catch a glimpse of the Dogman. For a while I was hopeful that my efforts had worked, but the relief was only temporary. One night, I woke up to the sound of howling outside my window. I knew then that my attempts to protect myself had only been temporary, and I was once again living in fear of that Dogman. Just randomly, one of my ex-girlfriends broke up with her current guy, and then started calling me on the phone a lot. I needed a break from the stress, and so I started dating her again casually, just as an excuse to go out and have fun and lighten up. I avoided bringing her around my place for obvious reasons, and she eventually asked me why. Now, I don't know why I told her the truth, but I did. I guess I was emotionally prepared that she might think I'd lost my mind and break it off with me, but since she had pursued me to restart this romance, I didn't feel like it would devastate me too badly if she did end up ghosting me. I mean, it wouldn't have been the first time with her. But instead, she turned out to be really interested in cryptids, and she wanted to go to my house even more, to see me and the Dogman. Once I knew that, I made her send me an email promising in print that she wouldn't sue me if she got injured because of that Dogman. I mean, I've been burned by this girl before. We have a history. So she swore she wouldn't sue, and I had her over. No Dogman. It was like the Dogman knew she wanted to see him, so he stayed away. That made me even more comfortable with having her over, since she seemed to repel that creature. Then one night, when I came back after driving her home, I saw the Dogman. He was standing directly in front of the front door of my home. He was glaring at me, like he hated me. It was terrifying. He was blocking the entry to my own home, and I didn't know what to do. I stood there looking at him, and he stood there looking at me. After some length of time, he sorta huffed, like he was disgusted, and he walked off. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't. I wouldn't have been able to get into my own home. When I told my ex-girlfriend this story, she came up with this idea that I thought sounded dumb, of having her psychic friend lead a seance or a Ouija board session or something like that. I was like, the Dogman is an animal, not a ghost. But she said that we might be able to find out why the Dogman seemed to be unhappy with me. I was really against the idea, but the two of them did it behind my back one night when I was away on a business trip and my ex was house-sitting for me. She reported back that the Dogman wanted me to know a few things. 1, he will never stop bothering me in my home. Great. 2, he will convince everyone that I'm crazy. Awesome. 3, he will harass me until I really do become crazy. And 4, there's nothing I could do to stop it, since he will never appear to anyone except me. See? Now you know why I didn't want to bring that psychic in. I didn't really want to hear any messages like that one. So the reason I'm sending this story to you is that I actually got the idea of what to do about all of this from one of your old videos. Here's what I did. Outside of every window of my house, I set up a game trap cam that shoots video anytime there's motion outside the window. I also have cameras set up looking out the windows from inside. It costs me a lot of money, but I've got complete coverage. And I've got this software on my laptop where I can look at every one of the cameras, or any of them. I can operate them remotely, like if I hear a noise outside, and I see the camera has not been motion activated, I can turn the video on and see if I can see anything out there in the night. I made it so that if Dogman wanted to harass me in my own home, I was going to get it on video, or at least an image. So, of course, as you might expect, I've never seen the Dogman again since then. I should be careful to note that I do not think he stopped hating me, and I think he might eventually find another way to mess with my head. But at least for now, I feel a lot more comfortable in my own home than I have for quite some time. And that's because, as your listeners probably already know, the Dogman is very camera shy. Ace Williams, he's badass. Ace Williams, he's the gas. Please join me in thanking today's executive producer Ace Williams for making this episode possible. As you might have noticed, YouTube seems to have it in for our channel lately, making it harder and harder for us to survive. As a result, we're sadly dependent more and more on the kindness of people like Ace Williams and all of you viewers to keep us alive. You can donate to us directly using our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page as linked to in our description. Or you can send us a super thanks using that super thanks button right here on YouTube. We have a PayPal club and a YouTube channel members club that you can join in order to see secret episodes, with a new uncensored episode dropping each Sunday or Monday, 4 times a month. You can join for as little as $1 a month, but you get more and better perks if you join at higher levels. Plus, that money goes directly to feeding me and the cats. So, it's not like we'd be wasting it on a trip to Bermuda. Here with more info is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos, or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.